All right. Well, up in here, I am Thawah Gabar. This is my first live on this Thawah Gabar channel. And I will be going into Halloween. Why black people, black Christians, black and brown people who claim to love God, who believe in God, why they think, or should I say, why the Most High or the God of the Bible is not for Halloween. He is against Halloween, in fact. And we will go into the history real briefly. I'm going to go into the history and I will pull a couple precepts to prove that. Okay. Now, today is Halloween right now. Many people are celebrating it as I speak. Many people are getting dressed, getting ready to go to parties. Their children are out and going door to door, knocking for candy, dressed up in costumes or whatnot. But where does Halloween actually come from? So let's get some history on Halloween. Now, the holiday that you know right now, known as Halloween today in modern times, the ancient name of it was Samhain or Samhain. Samhain was celebrated from October 31st to November 1st. It was an ancient Celtic holiday that brought the end of the harvest season and the beginning of the winter, what the Celts considered the darker half of the year. It was a very important fire festival for the Celts, which recognized the veil between the living and the dead being able to be crossed. So Samhain was a time when the ancient Celtic people, the Celts, looked at it as though this was the time when the spiritual realm with the earthly realm was a thin veil and spirits could pass from the dead to the living. I'm going to keep reading. Celebrated mostly in Ireland, Scotland, and the Isles, the Celts lit large bonfires with large festivals of eating and drinking in preparation for the coming winter months. Bonfires were also thought to scare away the evil spirits that were walking the earth. This was also a time when people turned to divination. Now, I'm going to pull a precept. This is Leviticus. I'm sorry, let me get this precept real quick. So they turn to divination, and this is actually mentioned in the Bible. So this is the book of Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 10. I'll start at verse 9. When thou art come into the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee, thou shalt not learn to do after the abominations of those nations. Verse 10. There shall not be found among you any one that maketh his son or his daughter pass through the fire, or that useth divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch, verse 11, or a charmer, or a consulter with familiar spirits, or a wizard, or a necromancer. Now, this is something that the people believed back then. They turned to divination during this time of Samhain. We're talking about the foundations of what you know today as Halloween. Okay, I'm gonna keep reading. To appease visiting spirits, Celts had rituals and made offerings. They would leave a plate of food outside their home as to not upset any visiting spirit. Families worshiped their ancestors and even prepared plates for their deceased relatives. So this is big too, because we're going to get to that, but this was another part of it where people, they made offerings and they did rituals, sacrifices, and they also believed that people who passed away could come back. And they also worshiped their ancestors or the deceased loved ones that had previously passed. All right, let me move on. As Christianity swept over Europe, many pagan practices were incorporated into the religion. So as the religion of Christianity started to grow, it swept over the world and it assimilated many of the old pagan practices. Paganism, meaning that is the key word. Let me just get paganism real quick for you. Let me pull that up so we understand. We need a definition of what paganism is and what it is considered and what it was considered in the Bible and ancient times during that time period. So this is paganism. Excuse me. Paganism is a term first used in the 4th century by early Christians for people in the Roman Empire who practiced polytheism or ethnic religions other than Judaism. In the time of the Roman Empire, individuals fell in the pagan class either because they were increasingly rural or provincial relative to the Christian population, or because they were not milits Christi, meaning soldiers of Christ. Alternative terms used in Christian texts were Hellene, Gentile, and heathen. Ritual sacrifice was an integral part of the ancient Greco-Roman religion and was regarded as an indication of whether a person was pagan or Christian. Paganism has broadly connoted the religion of the peasantry. So the key words here was Hellen, Gentile, and heathen. It was made synonymous with a heathen or with a Gentile. That's what a pagan was, or that's what paganism is. Now, the practice of Samhain is a pagan practice that Christians follow today, that the people of God in ancient times would have never followed. Christ would have never followed. The apostles would have never followed. Peter, Paul would have never followed. Moses, Ezekiel, Isaiah, they would have never followed what we are talking about right now, this ritual sacrifices and the paganism that came with the holiday that you know today as Halloween. Okay, let me just remove that. Let me add this back and let's get here. Samhain became All Hallows Day, which later morphed into what we know as Halloween. Irish immigrants would later bring those customs to America. Halloween today started really being popular around the 1950s and 60s. Now, you can go today and you could see in pictures when they first started to celebrate Halloween, you don't even see black or brown people in those pictures. This is something that black people wasn't doing in the 1950s and 40s. This is something that came later as far as our community and latching on to the things that the holidays that are practiced exclusively today. Also, Halloween eventually got here as we know it today through Irish immigrants. Okay. And let me just go back. Let's go back. Now, when you look right here, this is a preserved body from ancient Ireland. And we're going to get into it. It says some academics suggest that argue that several ancient Irish bog bodies appear to have been kings who were ritually killed, some of them around the time of Samhain. Families bury loved ones in the bogs to preserve their bodies. They believed during Samhain they would return. So in Ireland, you have what they call is the bog, and this is a lush, kind of like swampy area cold with clay-like mud material or soil that preserves bodies. So what they did is they found these bodies that were perfectly preserved, and these bodies are so preserved that you can see that they still have their features. Well, as we just read, during Samhain, or what you know today as Halloween, they have found many bodies that were ritually sacrificed during that time, thrown into the bog. And that's why these bodies have survived, because the soil is like a clay. It has no air, no aeration. And so it preserves the bodies very, very well over thousands of years. And now we're talking about Samhain or Samhain, which you know today as Halloween. that is 2,500 years old. It's an old practice that people were doing that morphed into what people do today. What people are doing right now at this minute, that profess to love God, that profess to follow God, and that profess to know the God of the Bible, but they don't know that the God of the Bible is against it. Now, remember, these people thought when their loved ones died during this time, they would come back as spirits, because during this time, remember, they believed that the veil between the living and the dead was thin, so people could communicate and spirits could cross over. And so they would make plates of food for their deceased relatives at the table. They would put food outside of their doors for evil spirits to appease these spirits, because people feared these spirits that during this time, through their belief, came back. Okay. And so they felt the spirits walk the earth at this time. And many people practice paganism, or Wiccans, or different people that use divination and witchcraft. They are very active at this time. Okay. But this is what the ancient Celts believed. They believed that this is what would happen. Okay. The spirits would come back. And so they did things to appease these spirits. Some of the other things that they did was dress up in costumes. Now, the reason why they wore costumes was to scare away the spirits. They believed that these spirits would not bother them if they dressed up in a grotesque, scary costume. They would actually scare the spirits away. So this is where this is where dressing up in costumes come from. And they would dress up in, animal skulls, animal skins, and this was very, very popular. So people wasn't dressing up how they dress today. It wasn't none of that, like, people dressing up like characters and all of that. People dressed up as something scary, grotesque, to scare away people. They would take animals like this right here, like a pig, and they would actually put a slaughtered pig's head or skin on to wear. And this was a true belief system, and this is the foundation and the origins of Samhain, or what you know today as Halloween. Okay, so when it comes to these ritual offerings, the people were afraid of what? They were afraid of these spirits. They were afraid of these spirits actually coming back and haunting them, or doing something to them. And so let me get a precept real quick so we can read out the Bible. Let me get Ecclesiastes 9. Pull that up. Let me see here. Just bear with me. Pull that up. Ecclesiastes 9 and 10. And I'm going to share the screen. Now, let me see. This is Ecclesiastes 9 and 10. Let me get it. I'll start at 10. Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 10. Whatsoever thy hand findeth to do, do it with thy might. For there is no work, nor device, nor knowledge, nor wisdom in the grave whither thou goest. Meaning, when a person passes away, there is no knowledge or wisdom. There's nothing going on once you leave this earth. It's not like you're coming back to, mess with the people who are living. That's a real famous misconception about spirituality and spirits and demons, is that people think that people uh, that have passed away come back to mess with people and come back to bother people. And in this case, in Sam Hain, they thought that people, these spirits, would come back and haunt them or do something to them. So they did something to appease these spirits, first giving them food or scaring them away by lighting bonfires and by putting on grotesque costumes. That's the reason why costumes are worn today in Halloween. It goes back to this ancient custom, which God was against, right? And also, you got to think, we just read about paganism. This is all also a people who are not your people. So you're following a people and their customs and their ways, and you don't even know why you're doing it. You don't understand why you're doing it, right? Now, this is another component to this. Now, the Irish came to America, and let me just stop right there. Let me get this real quick. This is another component that I don't want to leave out. This is the god Crom Croc. Crom Croc. This is the god that the people would sacrifice to. Now, according to the ancient book of invasions, each Samhain, the people of the Irish village sacrificed 2/3 of their children, their corn, and their milk to the supernatural Fomorians. According to the later Dinshantas and the Annals of the Four Masters, which were written by Christian monks, Samhain in ancient Ireland was associated with a god or idol called Crom Croc. The text claim that at first that a firstborn child would be sacrificed at the stone idol of Crom Croc every Samhain. They also say that Ireland's high king Tirgermius, along with 3/4 of his people, died while worshiping Crom Croc there one Samhain. So this is the history of the thing that you're doing right now in Halloween, that people would had sacrificed their children, their firstborn, sacrifice in order to have food, sacrifice uh, to this deity, Crom Croc. That's paganism, and that's also against the Lord, if you believe in the Bible. But many people don't know the history of the things that we do. And so you don't know that you're going against what you actually believe in, if you believe in the God of the Bible, because you don't know any history or have any context or why you're doing these things that you do today. Only that your parents did them, your grandparents did them, and that's it. It's nothing wrong with it. It's just that once you learn, you gotta change, you know? So let me get some more and I'm gonna wrap it up. So when this came through Irish immigrants to America, these traditions, remember the Bible says, don't follow the traditions of men, the philosophies, and the philosophies and vain deceit. Don't be fooled by that. Don't be deceived by that. And after the traditions of men and not after Christ. Well, the Irish brought these traditions here to America during the time when Black people, give or take, was trying to get up out of slavery. And so, this how you know this is not of us. We shouldn't be celebrating. Black and brown people should not be celebrating things like this, right? It's paganism and it's against the Lord, and it is not. It doesn't serve you. It serves you, but it doesn't serve the God that you claim to serve. Okay, so these Irish, well, when they came here, they did things like this. They cross-dressed. They were called hags. They would knock on people's doors for hospitality, for a good time or whatnot. So this is also was instituted. This was a part of what you know today as Halloween. Okay. And so, like I said before, a little earlier, I said if you was to go and you was to look at different pictures when people started celebrating Halloween, you don't actually see Black people or brown people in them. It was strictly a European holiday. Okay. That's even furthermore why we shouldn't be doing it. And now This is Anton LaVey. He was the founder of the Church of Satan. He is quoted as saying, "I'm glad that Christian parents let their children worship the devil at least one night out of the year." Ain't that something? This is the man who founded the Church of Satan saying this. I think they probably know something that you people that profess to love God and to follow God don't, because you're celebrating Halloween at this very moment. And so it just goes back to the question is, why do you celebrate it? That's the question you should be asking yourself, is why do I celebrate this? Why do I celebrate it? Another question you should be asking yourself is the Lord against it or is he for it? Jeremiah 10:2 says, learn not the way of the heathen. Or you could also put in there the way of the pagan. Learn not the way of these other people. Learn not these type of practices. But that is the history of Samhain, of Samhain, which people call Halloween today. Don't nobody really want this truth. Like, this truth is, it hurts people and it cuts people because people just want to do what they want to do. Like, even people that claim to love the Most High and claim to love God, they just really want to do what they want to do. And they would rather just feed their flesh and do what makes them happy. And so, even though the truth is out there, many people would reject that. They reject the truth because they don't want the truth. They rather would love the world. Like the Bible says, love not the world, neither the things in the world. Well, people would rather actually love the world. Even people that claim that they love God, they will find a way to make an excuse of why they celebrate Halloween, why they celebrate Christmas. They'll figure out a way to make an excuse because people really don't love the Most High like they say they do. People are all in it for the prosperity gospel and what they can get out of it and what they can receive from God, but they really don't want to serve the Most High like they lips say they do, right? And so that's the thing. Is the Lord against it or is he for it? And figure that question out for yourself. So by the next time Halloween rolls around, if in fact, Lord willing, the world is still here, you'll know that you're not supposed to be celebrating it, right? And you also got to ask yourself, are you serving the Most High or are you just serving yourself when you do these things? 9 times out of 10, people are serving themselves. It's not out of ignorance. It's just that they want to do what they want to do, like I just said. But think about this. You send your children to these places. You send your children to a stranger's house to get candy. You send your children out to see strangers. You don't know who answering the door. You don't know who is scoping out your children. There's so many missing children right now. Not saying that children are going to come up missing or that more children come up missing during Halloween or anything like that. But the world that we live in, that everybody knows that we live in, you're exposed. You are, like in the beginning, we talked about Crom Croc and how people would sacrifice their children. Well, you are figuratively sacrificing your children to celebrate this holiday, to be in the spirit of Halloween and be in the spirit that is against the Most High, that is against the scriptures, right? And I mean, they're lacing the candy. They're doing all type of things. When we were growing up, they were doing things to the candy. Now the drugs look like candy. These are things to think about. And as an adult, most people just want to have fun. So I was saying that, when it comes to even today with women, it's like it's just another excuse to dress like a whore. That's all it is. It's just another excuse to 304 yourself. Just another opportunity to be half naked. That's really what it's all about when it comes to the adults. To go to a party, get drunk, get high, have sex, and just fulfill all the lust that you want to fulfill. That's all it really boils down to. Now, I'm not saying it's okay. It's nothing wrong. Now, there's nothing wrong with having a party. There's nothing wrong with even dressing up. But for this time period, for this day, and for this season, it is, if you say that you believe in the Lord and you believe in God and you do what God says, because God is against everything about this pagan holiday. So I'm going to wrap it up right now. Thank y'all for watching. I know people will tap in later and watch this live. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the Thawah Gabar channel. I'm about here, y'all. Shalom. Peace. Stay safe.